So in this session of the Excel tutorial, we're going to actually continue on with the work we started 2 sessions ago. And if you remember, it was a company in a small town, one owner, dedicated employees, different culture, different society within that town. And they had problems in terms of production and productivity. They couldn't increase it. They couldn't figure it out. They tried different ideas until they called a group of consultants in to try to figure out from a fresh point of view what they could do. And the consultants realized that the comfortable levels of pay that people were getting were not enough to motivate them to produce more, meaning that they had a certain expectancy of reward for the amount of work that they're about to put in. So the consultant said that we need to rejig the way people earn money, not the money itself. It wasn't really about the money. So they started off with the pay, with the base and a piece rate. They added a bonus one that was based simply on a minimum benchmark of 1,350 units that we determined. And this is the first introduction to an if statement where we just put a flat amount like $10,000 if you meet the condition. We then gave a bonus 2, which was a calculation you get. So we raised the benchmark by 50 units to 1,400 units. And you get $75 for every unit above that benchmark of 1,400. And this is the one I said really focus on, figure this one out, because if you can do this, you can do thousands of other calculations you'll have to do in HR. We calculated total pay, which is just 3 numbers added together, and a percent change, which is new minus old divided by old. And we left it at that. So I hope you had a look at last session's tutorial, worked at it, practiced it, and are comfortable up to this point, meaning if I said redo this in about 45 minutes, you should be able to. Okay? We looked at how to put comments in a box, also how to put a date up there. Now we're going to do super bonus, which is the third version of an if statement. So super bonus is, and I'll just write this down, so you don't get anything, but you qualify, okay? You qualify for SB if your 2020 units is, now we're going to raise the benchmark. Remember minimum 1350. Then the second one was 1,400 units, so 50 marginal units. And now we're going to raise the benchmark to 1,500 units. And remember, if you set a benchmark, a point that you compare against, make sure it's achievable and it's reasonable. We base it on history. We base it on capacity, capability. We sometimes get it from industry associations. Governments give us ideas as to set benchmarks. You can't set it so low that everyone gets it, and you can't set it so high that nobody gets it. And it could change over time. Now, super bonus in this case is unique in that it's not money. First of all, it is something, but it's not money. So the way we're going to do it is this, okay? We're going to use an if statement, which should be obvious to you because we are checking to see who gets it if you're 1,500 or more units. So if your units is greater than or equal to 1,500, comma. So we're not going to put a number like 10,000. We're not going to do a calculation like we did for bonus 2. We're going to put a word. And the word is yes, or yippee, hooray, congratulations, whatever. If it's not a number, it's characters or letters or words, you put quotations around it. Now I'm not going to do no, like that. I'm not going to do no, because you're going to get a lot of no's. I don't want to see the no's. I don't want to do nothing either. That's nothing. I want to put a little something in there, just a little period or something, so that when you copy it down, you see the little dots. They don't get in the way, but at least you know that it worked. Let's have a look. See? The dots there, I know it worked. Copy it down, and just quickly check a couple. Yeah, so 2 people qualify for this bonus. Now I'm going to explain to you what the bonus is. Okay, so, and this is a side story. So do you remember anything about this group, the town? The consultants lived in it, ate with people, lived with people, worked the job. They understood everything about the people, the culture, the society. And they realized that this is a unique society within a society. So they had common values, beliefs. They behave like society, like we do in Ontario, for example, or central Canada. Also, as Canadians, yes, so there's something unique there and common. But within the town, they had a unique identity as a society. And, normally you'd look at sociology or social anthropology and psychology to understand deep down what makes people in that society work, what motivates them, what are their attitudes or perceptions. Well, you soon realize that society holds certain sentiments dear. And I'll refer to Abraham Maslow's Pyramid, the hierarchy of human needs. You've seen it before. You know what it is. There's several layers. And the consultants realized that money, if we did money for super bonus, which is the third level of bonus, it's not going to mean much because not everybody likes to show off money, cash. It's not interesting anymore. Yes, believe it or not, there is a marginal propensity to consume money. Marginal propensity to consume money. Which means that after a certain while, even money starts looking not so interesting. It's like the famous economics example of an ice cream cone. You can keep getting ice cream if that's your favorite thing up to a certain point, then your desire for it diminishes. Well, yeah, money's the same way. Now, if you look at Abraham Maslow's pyramid, we do, in our society, in our economy, we do need cash. We need money, cash, to satisfy, let's say, the first few requirements, which is safety, security, shelter, clothing, food. Not in that order. I think clothing comes last. In other countries, in other parts of the world, you can always barter and share. That's okay. But here we have to have money, okay? But after that, you kick into these socializations, belonging, and self-actualization levels. And money sure can buy some of that, but there's more to it. So the consultant said, why don't we understand these sentiments and tap into some of it? Sense of belonging, wanting to be different than others. Sense of celebrity, being one, being associated with one. So they simply said, look, we're just going to single people out who are the best performers and give them packages, not cash. These are $100,000 value. It wasn't the money, it was a thing. And people had a choice of one of three things. And in the first year, in 2003 actually, they gave away all three. And I'm happy to report after all these years, even though ownership has changed, yes, the owner sold, new owners came in, they've maintained the culture, the corporate culture, pretty much the way it was. But all of this has been successful after all of these years. Now, I'll give you the three choices. The three choices were Volkswagen Beetle car. This is in the first year, okay, years ago. Volkswagen Beetle car, fully loaded, every option, with gas cards to top you up to $100,000. People like that, they reacted to it. Cars are okay, they're still okay, they're still being done. Second one was, after 2 years, because we couldn't let you go this year, is for you, 2 months off with pay, first class, full luxury around the world, and I think you can take one or two other people with you, $100,000 worth. And the third one was your house furnished by Ethan Allen Furniture. Now that's like really antique-y, old, very good quality furniture. Very expensive. So it was a thing. And at the holiday party in December, the Christmas party, they actually had a sense of celebration to create that sense of celebrity. Pictures of the vacations and the car was driven in and all that sort of thing. It was a hoopla, balloons, confetti. It was risky, but it worked in this context. It wasn't about the thing. It was about that being, that sense of accomplishment, and the motivation of others to be part of that group, to be that person next year. It worked quite well. It still is working. Okay, we'll stop it at that. I'm going to show you a few more things later, but right now I want to give you 5 more free marks for my test. Free marks again, meaning you will have to do it. So 5. Now, if you look at this in front of you, this spreadsheet, if you were to print this, it would not look good. right? I mean, those lines are not going to print. It looks kind of ugly. And I think managers deserve appealing reports, right? They should be readable. So 5 marks here. You highlight from A3 all the way to K9, so all of it. And we're going to put lines in. So at the top of the screen next to bold, italics, underline, there's a borders button. We're going to choose all borders. Later you want to play around with these subtotal, grand total features here. But we'll do all borders and you see lines. See, these lines will print, and it's important to have lines on a report so that people can follow more accurately. The second thing you want to do is highlight from A3 to K9. I'm going to change the fill color to black, and next to it the font color to white. Now that pops. That's good. That's nice. It's publishable, right? Okay. So now I want to show you some individual things. And always keep in mind, Excel is not one big thing. Don't think of it as one big thing. Think of it as individual things within it that you add to your toolbox. And those toolbox items, the more you have, the more your employer is going to pay attention. Your price just went up. And in this course, we get up to a certain point, what I believe and know that you need to get started. And maybe for a long time after that. But you're going to discover more and more in the future because Excel has a lot of functionality. You're either going to search it on the internet, you're going to ask me, you can ask me years later if you want a solution to something, or a colleague tells you, or you figure it out yourself. So I'm going to show you some plug and plays. Now plug and play is like this one. I already showed you one. It's a function. You key it in, plug it in the way it is, press enter, you play with it, it works. This one is called NOW, okay? So let's go over a couple. Let's go over here. Do a total and an average. So I'm just typing the words in. And I want a total over here. Now you could do this, right? Equal sign, plus this, plus this, plus this, plus this, plus this. You could do that, but what if you had like 6,000 names? You're not going to do that, right? There is an auto sum function at the top. You could use it if you feel comfortable with it. Just be careful with it. But I'm going to show you the actual plug and play. Plug and plays functions start with an equal sign, and then there's a word after it. Right? In this case, it's sum. Sum means to add. That's the name of the function. Now, it doesn't have to be capital, but after the equal sign, you can have no spaces, okay? Now, you see I started the bracket. That bracket will close. But inside, you always have to tell Excel where you are looking. Excel says, sure, I'll sum something, but what do you want to sum? Where are you looking? I'm looking here. And I'll close the bracket. Usually you can just press enter, but I'll close it. Now, B5 to B9 is called a range. B5 to B9. So if you had 9,000, you can easily go down to B9,000. It'll sum up everything for you. See? Now, do you remember we took something here and we copied it down like this using the black plus sign? You can do the same over here. Go to the bottom right-hand corner, click, hold, and go all the way to the end. Now, I'm not going to do the words, of course, because you cannot add words. I mean, what's a yes plus a no? A maybe, right? No, you can't. You can count words, you can't add them. Then there's some weird things that happen along the way. So here, you get a 0. It doesn't matter. I'm going to delete it because you can't add percentages. It means nothing. And sometimes the formatting, see here, these are all commas, but it formatted for dollars. You just quickly change it, okay? This one, change it. And this one I'm going to delete because that's the ratio. Pay per unit, a ratio. You cannot add ratios either. Doesn't mean anything. Okay? But hang on, let's think about this. Take a look. You see, this is PPU. And let's take a look at Sally. Sally's PPU was Sally's pay divided by Sally's units to let us know how much Sally costs, labor costs for each unit she produces. But I told you we can't sum PPUs. We can't sum ratios. But what we can do in this box, okay, look, is we can do a PPU for the entire company. The total is for the whole company, right? So why can't we take total pay and divide it by total units to get a company PPU? Look, total pay divided by total units. And let's make it 2 decimals. So for the company, the PPU is $39.40. It's not an average. It looks like one. And individually, these are the PPUs. I can do the same thing for percent change. Do you remember what percent change was? For Sally, it was Sally's new pay minus old pay divided by old pay, right? Just for Sally. But down here, I can do that for the entire company. The total new pay is this minus the total old pay divided by the total old pay. And yeah, now look, this is weird. You ever get a zero? Just look at it. It's a dollars. It's supposed to be percent. Don't ever delete the zero. There's something there. So my percent change in pay total was 2.2%. You can do that. Now average, that's another function, okay? Look, it's intuitive. The word is average. You have to spell it right. I want to average these numbers. Press enter. So on average, my employees are getting paid $52,800, right? So if I did something to improve their pay next year and the average was $54,500, I could say, hey, employees, on average, your pay increased by $3,000. I can copy this across. And again, just fix up the numbers. These are percents. This is units. So I'll make it comma. And you want to practice just fixing things up, and this will be 2 decimals. So you can average ratios. That's okay. And you can even average percentages. That's okay. Now I'm going to talk about the dangers of average, okay? So we use average as a benchmark way too often. You know what an average is. An average is the sum of all the numbers, add them up, and then divide by how many numbers there are. That's easy. When you use average as a function, Excel does both for you automatically. It knows the total, it knows how many there are. But you hear about averages all the time from a young age. The average mark for the class, the average Canadian, the average household income, the average female, the average male, the average one. What the heck is average? Does anybody ever disclose the methodology they use to calculate the average? Yet we love averages. We like at least hearing about it because it's an artificial benchmark that you use to compare where you're at. So if the average on a test score was 72% for the class and you got 75, right away in your mind you go, okay, I'm good. I got more than the average. I'm okay to go. You know what? No. No, because otherwise you would have said, no, I could have done a lot better. I could have done 82. And the average of 72 was only low because 5 people got 0 on it for not doing anything. Now, unless I'm willing to statistically manipulate and massage, maybe do regressions or whatever, and disclose that, then most averages that you hear about are inaccurate. You know, the average household income. What do? Eliminate everybody who doesn't have an income or include them? How does that work? So I have to tell you right now, most HR people that I have come into contact with and I've consulted a lot simply use the average in its simplest way and they do it year after year. And you know what? Hey, as long as everybody does it, it's okay, but it's inaccurate. And it doesn't matter that much if your company's doing well and you're growing and you're moving forward year after year. But in my world, we like to optimize and make things more efficient, not just live with the way things are. So we start looking at other ways of proving improvements or comparing, not just an average. Although average can serve your purpose. And I'm going to prove it to you. Look. Let's say I had to report PPU. I've got 2 numbers here, $39.40 and the average of $39.53. Now both are legitimate numbers. You add a layer of ethics in there, and if you want to, what should I say, misuse or abuse that number, mislead. But both are legitimate. You won't get in trouble for either one. Now I'm going to use one number in a sentence and use the other number in a sentence within a minute. I will go to my boss and say, boss, I need $500,000 for training. Because look, our PPU is an unbelievable $39.53. So I'm showing the higher number, the average. On average, my PPU is high. So my boss gives me the money, so on, so on. Then next year, I go to the boss, say, boss, thank you. Look what I did. I need a bonus. Look what I did. PPU now overall for the company is $39.40. So in the exact minute, I could tell you a low number to look good, and I could tell you a high number to scare the heck out of you or blame you, the average. Look, this is even worse. Take a look. Let's go to percent change. That's a 33% difference. That's huge. Is a real percent change 2.2% or 3.3%? Well, to my employees, this is what I'm going to say. Look, hey, employees, thank you very much for buying into this new scheme and working with me and the consultants. Combined, you've worked a little bit harder and you've managed to get, on average, 3.3% more money than last year. Now, remember, these people are community people, so they're not going to look at themselves anymore. They'll kind of say, okay, as long as we did okay as a group, next year I'll do better. That's the Canadian way. Right? It's a collective. But I'm going to go to my boss and say this. Hey, boss, look, thank you for believing in my program and the consultants. We only spent 2.2% more money on payroll, but we got a significantly more increase in units. Two different numbers, both legitimate. I'm using one the one way, one the other, which is more misleading. Now, just as out of a curiosity, I'm going to show you something. Look, I'm going to figure out what the actual percent difference is in units. Okay, let's do it over here. Take a look. My new units is this, minus my old units, right? That's how many more units I produced. I actually produced this many more units, 430. Now, let's divide that. So new minus old divided by old. Look at that. Make it into a percentage. 6.4%. I got 6.4% more units out of my employees by making these changes, but I only spent 2.2% more money. Think about it. We won't include super bonus right now, right? That's not bad. And that's one way I'll prove to my boss that this worked. And if you're using control group, of course, then you want to roll it out to other people if the study was positive. Misleading? Maybe. So I want to show you a few more plug and plays we can use to prove that the actions and the activities that you undertook to improve things with your employees in fact worked. It's called validation. Now, in practice, not too many HR people do it scientifically. They don't do it officially. Quite often, for example, if it was training, they get the money for training, they would do the training, and at the meetings declare, hey, we just did training for our employees. Pat me on the back. Do we really go and validate? I mean, do we just kind of observe and say, yeah, the training worked, people are better? Or do we truly use numbers to prove that what we did, in fact, had an impact, and how much of an impact? Now, you can hire statisticians for that, I suppose. You yourself might know how to do it. But if you're in an HR department with the culture of not doing it, you're not going to do it either. I'm proposing we change that. That even at the most simplest, non-scientific level, we use various different numbers to prove that what we did in fact worked. Okay? Let me just pop up a few over here. Now, I've already pre-typed these, so I'm going to cheat a little bit. I've got a few sentences here, or words, and I need to use functions to answer them. All right? First one's easy. Look, I'm asking you, what's the number of employees? I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I get it. But here's the thing. You can't just count with your finger. Never. You can highlight the names. Highlight them. And look at the bottom of the screen. It'll always give you a count. Bottom right. Look, if you highlight numbers, guess what you get? You get the sum, the count, and the average. And if you right-click, you get a lot more choices here as well. But you can't use those numbers. So we use functions to get us those numbers, okay? The first function to count is count. Wow. Whoa, hang on. This is Microsoft we're talking about. Although we're tremendously grateful that Microsoft gave us Excel, it's a lifesaver, Microsoft does some weird stuff. So you can't just use count. You have to put A. I'll explain. Now, what is it you're counting? The names, right? Now, Excel is concerned whether you're counting words or numbers. In this case, we're counting words, letters. Letters are alphabet, A, B, C, D. So you have to put the A. Count A, alphabet, words. If you're counting numbers, don't put the A. So I do have 5. Now let's say, and I know you're still itching to fire Buffy. So let's say we did wipe out Buffy. We fired Buffy. Number changes to a 4. Let's say I insert a new employee, right? And I hire Jake. Number changes to a 6. Now, if you're going to add and delete a lot of people, above and below, like below Sally and above Joe, make sure you put blank spaces above and below and include those in your count. Now, in this cell, I want to do the highest 2019 units. I'm looking for a function, a name. What's another word for highest? I wish it was high. It's not. Another word is called maximum. Short is max. Highlight where you're looking. Maximum number is 1600. Doesn't tell you how many. That's distribution. It just tells you the highest number amongst all the employees. And another word for lowest is, you guessed it, min. Minimum. Min. Highlight it. My lowest number this year is 1200. So doing it is easy. Look, max and min. We're always looking for highest and lowest, right? But here's how you can use it. Look, the difference between the high and the low of anything in a list is called a range or the spread. Now, if the spread, the difference between high and low, is big, it's significant, large, there's a big gap, there's a disparity, then it shows lack of control. In this case, lack of control over how employees produce. And lack of control denotes uncertainty. So if you were to do things in the future, let's say you did training, new equipment, fired the people that are low and hired better people that are higher, whatever it is you did in HR that costs resources, and you were able to narrow that gap, that shows that you have more control. And it shows effectiveness, validation of what you did. That's one way to look at it. Right? Think about it. Well, look at government, for example. Governments try to do things to reduce gaps. Income disparity. Highest earning versus lowest earning. They don't do too much on that account. But take a look at the wage gap between men and women. Highest earning men versus highest earning women, which would be the low end. There used to be a gap of 30%, and that was a concern. Why the big disparity? And governments over 35 years have tried things, including legislation, Pay Equity Act, to reduce that gap because that's more certain, it's more equitable, it's fair. They're only at 22% right now. Should be 0, to be honest. But it's a measure, okay? Now, I want you to do an exercise. I want you to take your hand, put it flat in front of you, and put your other hand flat below it. So the upper hand is going to slap the bottom hand on the top. So the upper hand is the high, bottom hand is the lowest. And I want you to move it up and down because highs and lows go up and down all the time. The spread gets bigger, narrower, bigger, narrower. But see, it's not moving up and down. It's moving sideways as well. Every day, every week, every quarter, every year. It's hard for you as a human to keep and pay attention to, keep your eyes on and pay attention to the gap and move forward. So what we're going to do is we're going to add another number called the median. Now, median is a Latin word. It means middle. Function is called median. Median of this. And a median is exact mathematical middle, which means a weight of 50% of the numbers are above it and 50% below. Now, forget the high and the low. Just keep your eyes on the median, the middle line. And that, as it moves forward, it goes up and down, but your eyes only have to be on the one line. Now, I like this. This is one of my favorite ways of proving to people that what we did. As a consultant, if I charge money, in a follow-up report, I want to show what the improvement is in whatever we did. Did something improve because of what we did? And it was, let's say, productivity or accidents or absenteeism or whatever. I could look at the average and report, yes, the average improved. But that, to me, that's weak. I could say the spread narrowed, but that's only if we're looking for consistency. If you're doing ISO 9000 or ISO 14000, if you don't know what that is, do not worry. They're quality systems that want consistency. Okay, you want across the board similar productivity. But a gap of 400 here does not show that at all. But the median, okay, so if I did something, training, new equipment, whatever it is, and my median 2019 units improved next year, so my median for 2020 was 1370, that's significant. I can directly point and say, I did something and it worked. Especially if you use a control group to test it out. The year after, my median goes up to 1500. Wow, I really did something. So median's just a nice way of looking at benchmarking where you're at and if there's any improvements. Combine that with a narrowing of the spread and combine that with an improvement in an average. Now in a report, you have a lot to talk about. And I go over to the right side. We did the high and the low. Life isn't always about high and low, right? Sometimes we have highest, second highest, third highest. Kind of like the Olympics, gold, silver, bronze. Sometimes you want to look at the bottom. I'll promote the top 5 people and I'll fire the bottom 5 people. So we're always looking for some hierarchy. So I want to show you a quick function of how to look for the second highest, not just the highest. The unfortunate thing is you can't use the word max anymore. Why? I don't know. I called Microsoft saying, why won't max work? Max only works if you want the highest. By the way, I called Microsoft several times and each time they hung up on me. But you figure it out. So, eventually you figure it out. So I figured out it is large. Yeah, I got a Thesaurus. I looked for a synonym, large. Now, large of what? We're looking at 2019 units. But because you want the second large, you have to put the comma, 2. So it reads like this. Hey, Excel, give me the second largest number in that range. And it will. And I could do a list here. I could do third largest, fourth largest, so on. Now, another word for lowest is small. In this case, I want the third smallest, third from the bottom. It gives you the third smallest. So I don't have a story around those two, but you will figure out how to use those. I showed them to you. You know in the back of your head it's there. But in the business world, when your boss asks you to do something, a job, day in, day out, you will then seek out the proper functions or functionality to make your job a little bit better. Now the next two are probably 2 of my favorites. Okay, they saved me so many times. Your boss comes to you. Now, by the way, we're only looking at a small list of numbers here, okay? It would be a lot better if we had like 5,000 of these names. But your boss comes to you and says, you know what? We are now optimizing, fine-tuning. We want to become better, more fine-tuned as a company and our workforce. We need to make a case to fire people. Let them go, buy them out, early retire them. So you ask, based on what? He goes, look, we are now good enough after all these years that we can set our minimum benchmark to 1,400 units. So tell me the number of people we can fire. How many people have less than 1,400 units here? So we can do that in a short list. We could say no, 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 yes, yes. So these are 2 numbers. So that's 2 people that are less than 1,400. So I am counting these numbers if they are less than 1,400. So you can almost guess what the function is. It's count if. Don't memorize it. Write it down. Now, where am I looking? Here. Comma. There's a little extra step here, okay? What am I looking for? Any number that is less than 1400. Now, makes sense. Hey, Excel, count if any number there, E5 to E9, is less than 1400. Now, you press enter and you get a weird error message. Who the heck even reads this? Actually, don't. Rarely does it actually give you the answer. Oh yeah, I called Microsoft many times. They ignored me. They hung up. But somehow you figure it out. So I figured out that that won't work, although it makes sense. It should work. This is called syntax. Some programmer said it should be like this. Live with it. You just got to do it. You got to put quotations around that condition or criteria. I call them crazy quotations because it's crazy that we have to do it. I'm going to press enter. The answer is 2. But then you go to your boss and say, but boss, listen, if we let 2 people go, at least in the first year, we won't get apprentices ready. So we're going to lose their production. Like literally, we're going to lose 1,380 units plus 1,300 units. That's 2,680 units. So I want you to now add up any units here that are less than 1,400. Not count them. We counted them. That's 2 people. What's the total of their units? 2,680. So we have SUMIF and we have COUNTIF. Now remember, for this week, week 4, I'm putting additional mini tutorials explaining some of these things to you. So please have a look at those, okay? What percentage of my people are we going to fire? So this is not new. This is what? Just look at it. I have 2 I'm firing out of 5. Now thank God we have the number 5 here, right? So it's simple. I can do 2 divided by this 5. It's 40%. Now what if I didn't have that 5? Or I didn't have that 2? Because quite often you do spreadsheets that have so many different cells in it. Years later you look at it and say, I could shorten this. I could make it more streamlined. You know, I could do this. Look, I did it like this because I had the numbers on the screen. And I'll put it back like that in a minute. Hang on. Just want to challenge you a bit. Why can't I do this? Count if. Remember this? That's what we use to count the number of people. Okay, it's not 200%, by the way. It's just 2. Count if divided by count A, which is a count of the number of people. So it's the same functions we used in these 2 different cells. We're simply combining it into one. And that is a percentage. Quite often, by the way, if you get 0 as an answer, just look at the formatting, okay? It's still the same answer. Take a look. I'm going to set it back the way we did it before. Divided by this. Okay? So, how many did we do here? We have 1 equal NOW, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We've done 11 plug and plays. Am I going to show you more plug and plays? No. Well, not yet. We are almost completed before the test. But what I want to do in next session is I want to take some of this data, because this is getting quite big now. I don't want to keep adding to this, right? And I want to take some of this data, move it into sheet 2 at the bottom. And I'll talk about those sheets. But I want to reference some of this information. And then do some projections for 2021, 2022, discuss why it's not realistic or fair. And then in 2023, the consultants come back and propose a whole new merit or performance-based system. And that we'll do in the next session. Okay. So please have a look at this. I have given you this spreadsheet, the actual Excel file. It's in the week 4 Excel area, Excel resources area. Do it, practice it, master it, and ask questions. See you in the next session.